Hello, dear friends. Someone accused me of double standards because he doesn't understand me. I'm just saying that it is a mistake to respond to brutality with another inhuman brutality. If we followed the law of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, in the end we would all be left blind and dented. Revenge might be sweet at first, but then it becomes very bitter because it is cruel and creates a lot of negative karma. Opinion piece. The Eye of Sauron. Global surveillance. Hard times. Stormy days. Internal conflict. Fear is your enemy. God didn't create us to hate. Let's start. In quotes. I wish this had not happened in my time, said Frodo. I think so too, said Gandalf. And so do all who live to see these difficult times. The only thing we have to decide is what to do with the time we are given. Tolkien, The Fellowship of the Ring. There were many moments of danger when the future of Middle-earth depended on the bravery, courage, and tenacity of a few seemingly normal hobbits. That was also true in several episodes during World War II, and remains true right now. In quotes, war must be, as we defend our lives against the destroyer that would devour everything, but they do not love the shining world for its edge, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I just love what they stand for. Tolkien, The Two Towers. Overcoming. The story of the Lord of the Rings takes place in a fantasy world, but its themes and lessons transcend that environment. The bravery, courage, and tenacity of seemingly ordinary characters like Frodo and his friends are examples of how ordinary people can do extraordinary things when faced with difficult circumstances and threats. Tolkien lived during the First and Second World Wars, understood very well the horrors and difficulties they entailed, and incorporated his own experience and reflections into his work. Through Gandalf, the author reminds us that in difficult and dangerous times, what matters is how one responds to the challenges presented to them. His work reflects the idea that although we cannot change the past or escape the circumstances in which we live, we can influence the present and the future with our actions and decisions. The story of the Lord of the Rings is a reminder that resilience and determination are powerful forces for change and improvement, even in the darkest moments. Surveillance. We have to face the stormy days ahead, and all we can do is try to make the time we have left on this earth worth it. We are in an epic battle between good and evil. The Eye of Sauron, which is the surveillance consortium of the dark side, must be closed. The Eye of Sauron is an important symbol in the fictional universe created by Tolkien in his work The Lord of the Rings. In the story, the Eye of Sauron represents the constant surveillance and oppressive power of Sauron, the main antagonist of the work. Sauron is a malevolent being who seeks to dominate Middle-earth and recover the One Ring, which would grant him immense power. The Eye of Sauron is a visual representation of Sauron's presence and influence in the world. It is described as an immense and malevolent eye that sees everything. It is linked to the One Ring of power, and through it, Sauron can control those who possess it. The main characters of the narrative, such as Frodo and his companions, must avoid detection by the Eye of Sauron as they seek to destroy the One Ring and defeat the Evil One. More broadly, the Eye of Sauron can also symbolize temptation, corruption, and excessive power in Tolkien's work. It is a reminder of the dangers of unbridled ambition and the pursuit of absolute power. Sauron comes from Saurus, that is a lizard. Parallelism. The Bhagavad Gita says the same thing in the great epic of the Mahabharata, or the Great Battle. I get moved every time I read this story because of its tenderness and courage. Arjuna faces a moral and emotional crisis on the battlefield. He is about to participate in a great war, but he feels overwhelmed by the morality and responsibility of fighting against his own relatives, friends, and teachers who are on the opposite side of the conflict. He feels disturbed and confused about whether he should fight or give up the fight. In this context, Krishna acts as the charioteer of Arjuna and provides him with advice and wisdom. He explains to him that he must fulfill his warrior's duty without attachment to results and with a focus on spiritual self-realization. This advice helps Arjuna overcome his moral and emotional dilemma, and he finally decides to fight in the Battle of Kurukshetra, which was the mother of all wars, to protect the people from him and fight against oppression and injustice. This means that Arjuna must fulfill his sacred duty without worrying about whether he will win or lose the war. Krishna introduces the concept of karma yoga, which refers to the discipline of selfless action. He also reveals his true divine nature to Arjuna and teaches him the importance of self-realization and spiritual quest as a path to overcome suffering and worldly worries. I follow this sublime teaching. Economy. The world economy has been in suspense for some time, and the conflict in the Middle East has only accentuated this situation. X22 report. People are watching the economic collapse. The Fed has caught up in printing its way out of this, which will devalue the currency. He adds that people are waking up and in the end will reject the war. The Russian economy is growing surprisingly strongly, despite sanctions. The risk of fraud is greater in a cashless society. An advocacy group warns an accelerated transition to a digital currency could harm citizens. Reset News. Many warriors of light have sacrificed their lives in battle to free humankind. Can the US afford two wars? Asks the Treasury Secretary. Bloomberg Agency warns that Russia and China could be the only winners of the conflict in Middle East. Some 3,000 tons of aid are waiting in Egypt for the opening of the Rafah crossing. Transporters report attacks in France against trucks with Spanish products. Tucker Carlson believes that the Middle East war would be lost if Russia, China, and Turkey were involved. David Icke asks and answers. Why was Israel's attack allowed to happen? Because they are on the same side and just pretending to be on opposite sides. James Gilliland believes that we in no way support or belittle the atrocity carried out by Hamas, but no one asks what led them to such extreme hatred. Palestine was their land, and over the years they have been reduced to a 5 by 25-mile postage stamp. Did you know that Ukraine used to be called Yasaria? The fake actor with his tight latex mask will not fare well in this interaction. God did not design us to hate. Former Hezbollah combatant, now a Christian leader, remember his encounters with Jesus. Fulford Summary. Benjamin Fulford believes that the events in the Middle East, the huge influx of military-age male immigrants to the West, the collapse of social order, are part of a long-term plan to enslave humankind, but that plan is failing now because people are waking up. In his opinion, events in the Middle East are intended to distract attention for all alternative sources of information. He reveals that high-level intelligence agency officials have reached an agreement to avoid the Third World War. He adds that the Davos Forum has asked governments to make freedom of expression or freedom of speech a criminal offense because they have lost the ability to control the narrative. Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said, in quotes, "We have abolished all rules of war. Our soldiers will not be responsible for anything. There will be no military courts." Close quotes. A Jerusalem Post poll shows that 86% of citizens think Netanyahu should resign. Israel would have problems in case of war. Its 170,000 active troops would face around 1.6 million troops from Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, and Iran. The rest of the world has begun the hydrogen era of practically free energy. India and Saudi Arabia have signed a memorandum of understanding in this regard. China just launched its hydrogen fuel cell power demonstration vessel, which completed its maiden voyage. Most of the world has gotten in on the action by attending China's Belt and Road Forum, which is the ancient Silk Road. Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano has denounced the infiltration of the church by dark Freemasons who plan to separate to accompany their New World Order. Cold water. General Michael Flynn throws cold water on the white hat theory. In quotes, "I think it's a big psychological operation, and from what I see, that or whoever is running this operation has done a disservice. What I see are a lot of people sitting around waiting for something to happen instead of doing what I have been asking for quite some time: local action. Nero is burning Rome, and the bucket brigade is running out of water. I want us to face reality as it is, and it is currently right under our noses, and it is ugly. But let us never give up, and believe me, there will always be a silver lining. We just have to find it and take advantage of it as soon as possible, for as long as possible." However, General Flynn knows the importance of confusing the enemy about your activities and capabilities by quoting a text by Sun Tzu, in quotes, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Appear weak. Be extremely subtle, even to the point of being formless. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of having no sound. In this way, you can be the director of the opponent's destiny. If your opponent is temperamental, try to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, so that he becomes arrogant. If he is calm, do not him rest. If his forces are united, separate them. If sovereign and subject are at odds, come to an agreement. Put a division between them. Attack him when he is not prepared. Appear when you are not expected. The whole secret lies in confusing the enemy, so that he cannot understand our true intention." And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.